Welcome to the Autistic Licence podcast. I'm Leo in Suffolk, England.
I'm Siana. I'm in Carrickfergus in Northern Ireland.
We invite you to listen in on our conversations as we experiment with unmasking in an autistic space. We talk about what it means to discover we're autistic as adults, especially with established careers as therapists. We want people to know that autistic therapists exist and to broaden the conversation about neurodiversity. You're so welcome to join us, whoever you are and wherever in the world you are. We hope you'll find something of interest and connection here.
Hello.
Hello. Happy Monday.
Well, there is some light.
You've got some sunshine on your face today.
Yes. Last week was very dark. I don't think that the sun really came out at all at the end of the week, and it was not good for my seasonal mood.
And is this any better? Do you think this is going to make a nice difference?
Oh, it makes a massive difference.
Instantly.
Fantastic. Instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it really hard when there's no light.
You don't live in a great part of the world for that then, do you?
I guess.
I mean, on two counts, I suppose. I mean, we're both halfway up the Northern Hemisphere, but then you're also in a bit of the country that gets not as much sun.
Well, yeah, I need light. Maybe it's not so I don't mind the kind of climate in general. It's just that at this time of the year, there can be those days that there just is none. I do not thrive in that environment, but it's better today. There is light. So, yes. So, lovely listeners, Leo said to me that I might want to put the blind down because the sun was coming in on my face, but I decided to just move my location of the laptop, and it's still coming in, but it's just not blinding me the way that it would in my normal place.
I wasn't suggesting it because I thought you'd look better with the blinds down, by the way. I was suggesting it because you were uncomfortable.
That's okay, I didn't take it as that.
Yeah, but the listeners might. Leo suggested that I should put the blind down and turn the lights out and face away from the camera.
And then my face might be more pallid.
Please. And for those that are able, if we release any video clips or whatever of this episode, can enjoy your winter jumper.
Yes, this is a new jumper. Actually, it's a December jumper. It can be December and not just Christmas. Yes, it's lovely.
That's why I said winter jumper and didn't specify the...
How are you feeling about Christmas this year?
Well, lovely listeners will know, having listened to us all through the summer, that I've moved. God forbid that we should have an entire episode without me mentioning that. And so my environment is very, very different. I'm in a village in Suffolk, England. And it is very different because where I had been living for the kind of 15 years previously, well, most of my life actually, North London, but specifically where I was living was a busy main road, very urban. And although you would see people with, Christmas trees up and lights inside their houses, it's in a city. It wasn't one of those places where people decorated their whole houses on the outside with lights and decorations and stuff.
Yes.
However, I'm in a village now which does do that. And it's very pretty. And that has kind of prompted me to do a little bit more than maybe I'd planned. I have got my Christmas tree being delivered, but I haven't assembled it yet. It's an artificial one because I don't like the idea of a tree just sitting in the corner dying through Christmas.
I never liked that.
No. So that's ready to go up, and I've got a few lights and decorations ready, and I have got something for the outside of the house. A couple of things, actually. So I'll probably be doing that through this week. and having kind of, I suppose, social permission, social encouragement to do that because other people around here are doing that, then I think it is going to feel quite a lot more Christmassy than it has for a while. And I suppose I'm umming and ahhing about whether to mention the religious aspect of Christmas, because that I would suggest that for most people here being in the UK, Christmas is a holiday season before it's a religious one, if that makes sense. And one half of my family being Jewish and the other half being Church of England by heritage, I will also have a Hanukkah, the candelabra for Hanukkah, for 8 days, and I light the candles for that as well. So there's always a difference. There are some Christmas decorations up. There's the Hanukkah. They sometimes overlap with Christmas because Jewish holidays are on a slightly different calendar. So, to summarise, I'm more ready for a Christmas environment than I usually am, especially at this time.
Yeah.
I've always thought, here's a kind of a prejudice or a habit or something that's actually been changed a little bit, which is that I've always thought that putting the tree up and the decorations up at the beginning of December, which a lot of people seem to do now, wasn't a good thing. For me, it was always the weekend before Christmas.
Yes.
That I would do that, or my family would do that, because then it's special when it's actually Christmas. And I always had this idea that if you do it 3 weeks, 4 weeks even ahead, then by the time it's actually Christmas Day, it doesn't feel new or special.
Yes.
But I don't think that now. And that's partly your influence, because you have started already with decorating.
I always
and
do, but that's
yes.
because I decorate for the sake of decorating, not in preparation for the holiday or the Christmas period. It's not so much in preparation for the actual days. It's just that I decorate because it's really, really dark, and I like lights, and I like the miniatures on the tree and things like that, the trees and things like that. Although I have not been into it this year at all. Yeah, normally I like that as a thing in itself, but this year I've kind of gone through the motions, but I haven't really been that engaged with it. I don't know. But I was hyperactive for a lot longer than I normally am hyperactive at this time of the year, but I think that's kind of stopped in the past week or so, which really nicely coincided actually with my tree, because my tree was holding on to its leaves for longer than other trees. So it was my tree, my new tree.
Yes, we need to just... We're not talking about a Christmas tree now.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, tree. In my mind, it's two different trees, but it's not.
Yes.
My real tree. So my real tree.
Your cherry tree in your garden.
My cherry tree in my garden. So backstory, which I don't know is on the podcast, but...
I think we've mentioned the tree once or twice, but yeah, I can't remember exactly what people might know or remember.
Okay, yeah. Well, the backstory is that I got it in April or May time, and it was kind of in the discounted section of a garden centre, and it looked healthy enough. But actually, after about a few weeks of just being in its pot, it started to look really unhappy and lose its leaves and things like that. And I worked out, I googled it and everything, and I worked out it had some kind of a virus, and really it needed loads of TLC. So over in July, Ricky and I, well, let's say Ricky mainly, dug a really, really big hole in the middle of the garden. And I had gone to the garden centre and got manure and grit and all the things you're meant to do to really try and restore this tree. But we thought that the tree would probably not get leaves again until next spring, because it was out of sync and it had lost its leaves prematurely. It lost its leaves in June. It shouldn't have lost its leaves till the autumn. But then in August, it started to get leaves again and totally blossomed and was just really happy. And I guess that I was really attached to the tree right from it came and through all of this process. And then I've been watching the tree to see, okay, you're kind of out of sync. Are you going to lose your leaves, or are you going to hold on to your leaves? Which it did. It actually held on to its leaves for longer than other trees around it. Last week it still had, it lost its leaves at the top, but it still had a good bunch in the middle, and kind of been just going through this process with the tree. And in the last couple of days, it has let go of all its leaves. And I have kind of felt aligned with the tree in that. Yes. There you are. 5-minute intro and over explanation until you actually get to my point, which is that I have
which brings in the autistic element to our podcast, right?
That I felt aligned to that, because I feel like I held on to my leaves, as in my hyperness, my hyperactivity, for longer than normal in this season. I just kept going, and didn't go into a slump and into a demotivated state, which I would normally have been in for most of November. And maybe I've kind of now let go of that in the same way as my tree has.
Because you've been able to photosynthesize for a little bit longer and keep your energy topped up with your leaves.
Maybe. I don't know. But it didn't feel like a struggle. We currently have an autistic counsellors group happening. If you are interested in a future version of that group, please do keep in touch with us. That one will end mid-February, and then we'll be looking to start a new one after that, depending on interest.
The next group that we're starting is happening in mid-February, launching on Thursday, February the 19th. It will run fortnightly for 6 sessions between 7 and 9 p.m. UK time, and it's for autistic people in mixed neurotype relationships. For more details on that and everything else, Autistic License, go to autisticlicense.com and sign up for our newsletter, and for the groups, go to autisticlicense.com/groups. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in the recording, 2 things broke. One, my PC crashed, and second, my bracelet fell off my wrist and into pieces. So there was a 20-minute break while I fixed my PC and failed to fix my bracelet. There is a TV show that comes from ABC in Australia, and it's on Netflix. They've launched recently, I think, season 5, which I've only just found out about. The show is called You Can't Ask That. And what they'll do is each episode is a group of people from either a marginalised community or something kind of very niche that lots of people are very curious about. And basically these, it's advertised what group of people are going to be interviewed. And then the public will write in their questions. You can ask anything, and you can ask all the rude things that you wouldn't normally ask a person if you met them or whatever. So I'm just to look at this season's kind of group. There's a bunch of children. They're all interviewed individually or in pairs, by the way. It's really nicely done. Australians living in public housing, Olympic and Paralympic medalists, people who are HIV positive, people who've killed someone is an episode. So basically these people turn up, they sit in a studio, and they have a pile of cards with all the questions on. They pick them up, they read them, they get cross with them sometimes or whatever, but then they answer them. It's fantastic. There is an autism episode in this one, and I watched it last night. And I cannot recommend this whole program, all of the episodes, to people. It's such a great idea, and I was unexpectedly very heavily moved by it. I was surprised how affected I was, because obviously, the questions aren't massively surprising. They range from genuine curiosity and interesting questions to, are you super intelligent in that case? What is? And then the very complicated sum that, you're supposed to magically be able to answer. But it's really great. It's really good. I've been trying to piece together since what it was that moved me so much. And then I had a very vivid dream. This isn't going to go out. I'm telling you.
Not? Okay.
Well, let's see. Let's see. I had a very vivid dream in the night, which was obviously prompted by this program. And it was of me once again vainly trying to explain to people close to me that I'm autistic and what that meant to me, and it essentially being rejected. And I woke up extremely sad.
Yes.
And maybe there was a filter going on in my head while I was watching this program where obviously it really emphasizes you've met one autistic person, because there were certain things of certain people that were being interviewed that I really, really related to. And other ones not so much. But of course, we're all in the same universe and also doing what we do and working with the people we work with. Then all of these things are familiar to me, either directly or vicariously.
Yes.
The bits I think that I found were moving to me were those things where people were explaining answers to questions in a way that I would or would want to. And that, okay, I'm working this out literally as I'm speaking now. They were explaining things in ways that meant a lot to me and that I could accept. And then simultaneously, I was projecting those onto people in my life who I don't think would accept them, or I was imagining that would get rejected. And that was just very, very sad, because over the last 3 and a bit years since I've had my diagnoses, I have actually got to a place of it not bothering me. I'm confident in myself. I feel more myself than ever. It doesn't matter to me, at least to most parts of me, whether or not other people accept my experience. Those other parts that are still upset by that got really, really dialed up.
Okay. Yes.
That's dying down as the day progresses. This is why I went out for breakfast this morning. I needed to get out and away and into a different environment, which is something I should do more often, actually. And then there was just something about that disastrous go at recording that went on for nearly half an hour, and then my lovely bracelet kind of fell apart while we were talking. I don't know. So I'm probably feeling a bit raw, and I'm a bit surprised at how raw I'm feeling at having those parts activated, I suppose, coming to the fore and going, no, I'm still really upset about this, about not being fully accepted. And I'm very confident, be speaking for a lot of people, especially a lot of late diagnosed people, that actually, it gets better, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah. I don't really engage with that stuff very much. I think it's shut away for me, almost like there's no chance of it, so don't even try, so that's so I can recognize that. But I also heard that kind of, we're going to run out of time, and everything's going wrong, and it is that kind of like maybe something around the time of year and letting go and not being so productive that just needs to be accepted, and I saw my friend yesterday, and I was talking to her about the pressure that I feel about wanting to get things all set up, things that I've been doing lately, which are supposed to make my life easier in the future. And needing to have a look at, I guess that, my usual approach is to go with my interest, go with my intuition, and to allow things to come together. But something has happened for me where, because my daughter turned 16, there is a limit on my access to benefits which support my income, which I have needed as a single parent in these years. And with that looming change coming up, then I'm feeling like I need to be more responsible financially, and that's led to some changes in terms of what it's possible for me to offer low cost or free or whatever anymore.
Yes.
Because effectively that was being supplemented by me being able to be on benefits, which is a whole question in itself. Yeah. You know, whether that's even right, because that comes back to like your definition of things, and where I say I have to be more careful financially, it basically means I have to be more careful to charge and not you know, it doesn't mean more careful financially because I'm like spending excessively. I don't spend excessively. It's more just about being able to live. Like, I'm still under to be able to get benefits means you're still living underneath what the powers that be deem that you need. Yes. But there's something in that where my perspective as an autistic person as well, and as somebody who just doesn't kind of get capitalism or definitions of success or things like that, but also can live in a bit of a, you know, risky place in terms of that, to be able to come together without strategic business planning ever. But that doesn't mean success in a monetary way or anything like that. Anyway, at this point, I have come to a place where it's absolutely imperative that I look at that stuff, because the figures do not add up unless I bring in some changes in how I work and how I charge and things like that. And I have wanted to get a lot of setup in place so that I don't have to spend time doing that when I literally just will have to see more people, if I'm even capable of seeing more people from an energy point of view. I was talking about that, and I can't remember what my point was on this. Maybe it was just to like notice it. Yeah, I don't actually know what my point is. Can you help me? Do you know where I was going?
I don't necessarily know where you were going, but you also brought up another thread that also then ties in, which was the value system by which we judge success, which I think was the general thread that you were following, which is different, which has an autistic flavour to it as far as you and I are concerned, and a lot of other people. I mean, I would also actually add in the thread of therapists as well, because there is also something about people who are drawn to therapy professionally, who also have a different value system in terms of valuing themselves. Not necessarily in terms of success in the way that we're talking about, but also finding it very difficult to charge what they're worth. You know, there are trainings around this because it's so common. It's common in the caring professions generally, but there's something about therapists particularly who struggle with that. What you also brought in, though, was the idea of a different attitude to risk. You talked about risk, and that is worth hanging on to in this conversation, because it's a very odd mixture to have, where on the one hand there's often financial struggle and a resistance to dealing with it for value-based reasons, tied with a greater tolerance of risk. That's a really weird combination to have. Most people, I would say, when judging what success is and what reward is, would be drawn to higher tolerances of risk in order to gain much more materially and financially. Those things are usually tied together. It's an odd thing that we can only speak about you and I, that you and I do have a much more relaxed and comfortable relationship with risk. that isn't driven by, I must amass as much as possible, but just rather that's more likely to succeed. There's a logic to it, but it's still not going to be tied to a measure of success that most people would recognise.
It's not going to necessarily lead to more monetary value. In fact, it could lead to less, and I think that's why I'm almost like, well, let's get all this done now, because then there might come a time whenever I simply can't, because all my energy has to be taken up in practice, just practice. but even saying that, it's like, you know, that's relevant for our profession as well, because there is still this misconception out there that we earn our session rate per hour. We do not earn our session rate.
Well, yes, because we know that, you know, it's very rare that you would do 40 hours in a week, which would be a standard British work week at all, and then also that we'd be charging everybody full rate necessarily, you know.
But I don't even mean that. I mean that there's so many overheads, like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And then you take your tax out of it, you take your lack of holiday pay, your lack of sick pay, and the fact that for every client you usually have another hour of doing other things.
Absolutely.
And it goes way down in terms of
I'm sure we would do this with other professions, where you'd look at an hourly rate and you go, oh, that times 40. Wow. That's a lot of money.
I don't think that I would do it with other professions. This is really interesting, because sometimes you know, therapists talk about, you know, can you imagine going into a hairdresser or something and saying your rate for colour and cut is 80 quid. I want a colour and a cut, but I need a discount.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
It would be like, actually, I mean, all the time we get, do you do discounts? Do you do discounts? Do you do discounts? And it's like, would you go to the dentist and say, I'll pay you for a checkup, but please just give me root canal?
That's right. Well,
you know, like it just, we wouldn't.
Dentist is a slightly different one from the hairdresser, because but what I'm saying is that the reason that we might talk like that, the reason that you and I'm not going to talk for all therapists or anything, but again, it's a value system at work. We believe that everybody essentially will benefit from therapy. I assume believe that it is a good thing for people to do, and they should have access to it. That's the thing. Whereas other professions arguably are unnecessary or luxuries, or, do you know what I mean? Not a right. You don't necessarily have a right to somebody else to cut your hair, but you may believe that everybody has a right to the best mental health that they can get. And because our society isn't geared up to just provide that for everybody at no cost, or for it to be, you know, government funded. I mean, we do have the NHS in this country, which a lot of countries don't have any equivalent of, and that's something, of course. But we want more access, and we are too often, some might argue, prepared to sacrifice ourselves materially in order to try to provide as much, to fill as much of that gap as we can. So there's a value system involved in there, which again chimes in with what we recognise to be a dialed up sense of that for a lot of autistic people: fairness and equality and and justice, social justice. So we are caught up in a situation where there is not enough publicly provided access to what we provide, and our values drive us to really stretch ourselves very thin, either or through energy or resources, to support our values. And it puts us in this position, which, you're right, you don't find elsewhere. There's two things, actually. It's not just finances. It's not just that people expect that therapists are kindly people and therefore are highly likely to offer discounts if asked for, or lower rates, which we do, but also times as well, the convenience of it. You know, if I need to see my dentist, which yet again I do this week, there's no way that I would say, well, I can't really, you know, I'm working. Can we do it after 8 o'clock in the evening? It's not available, you know, and that does stretch out into well-being and healthcare. But people expect it of us, and which we collude with because we do often provide it.
Well, there's a few things there because, you know, I understand the hairdressing analogy falls down in the sense that it's not essential. But in terms of the general public, certainly women, they would tend to prioritise and think that they need their hair cut and they need their hair done. And many people, if pushed on it, would actually say, I need my roots done. I need my hair done. Now, I know that sounds trivial, but actually some people, you know, and so how they value hairdressing as opposed to therapy would be that it would be like, well, yes, I have to pay for that because that profession values themselves. So I'm not going to ask my hairdresser for a discount, but I'll ask my therapist for a discount. What's the difference? You know, your pot of money, but then think about everything. So the people who install gas for heating, you know, people are freezing. You know, surely surely we want everybody to have heat. We don't want people, older people, vulnerable people, to be freezing in their homes. So would a gas company then feel that same sense of, right, well, if somebody can afford to pay, then I'll do it. If somebody can't afford to pay, I'll do it for less. Or just a provider, a gas energy provider. You know, are they? And obviously there are schemes,
yes, but you're right.
Like
no, you're right.
But we can't. That is like taking on the whole capitalist system, like we are some kind of a solution. And actually we're only a solution for the ones that actually ask us. Yes. And then arguably, if we didn't do that just for those who asked, but we then were making a decent income, then we could choose very strategically where to give back our money.
And I think a lot of people in our profession do that. Yes. They will lean in towards high revenue streams of their work and then maybe set up a low cost practice or targeted maybe at a specific community. The plumber energy thing, that's a very valid comparison. It's the one I always used to use as the comparison was a plumber. If your property were flooding and it was an emergency, that is absolutely a need. And also, though, I did want to track back. I wasn't putting the hairdresser thing in a luxury package. I'm saying that some people may see it that way, but you are right. If you don't look a certain way, and you're right again, particularly for women, probably, then you are at a social disadvantage. You may well be at a professional disadvantage in a way that really could negatively impact you. Also, there's another crossover, of course, with hairdressers, that a lot of them will say that they are therapists, because people talk to them and tell them intimate things, and they have that. There is a service there. There is part of it for a lot of people.
Yes.
So it is unfair of me to hint that there are certain things which maybe I put lower down on a value list because in terms of a service.
Hair,
well, I choose to have no hair. Let me emphasise that. And while I grew hair, it was important for me to go to my local Turkish barber and have, feel nice by being attended to in that way. Of course, I'm autistic, so I didn't say a word to him. But there wasn't any conversational therapy going on there. But these things do become, actually, then there's yet another branch which we can follow up another time, are the things that actually are luxuries to most people, but are actually essential for us as autistic people. Yes. There are material things which other people won't find at all important, but are necessary for our psychological survival, and that will vary massively from person to person, and maybe that's something to come back to. Although it does fit in here again, a different set of how we value things or ourselves and what we consider to be success. So maybe let's just, I feel a need to want to narrow down on the success part.
Okay. Yes.
So what we were talking about in that previous episode was how we measure success for ourselves, because we don't do it for other people, actually. I would perhaps argue that an autistic person is actually way less impressed, if you like, by somebody boasting about what their measures of their own success are. It's kind of meaningless. It applies to celebrity as well. You know, it applies to that whole speaking truth to power. It's true of how we view or don't view hierarchies, social hierarchies of all kinds. And so our measures of success are different. And and I think often, gosh, there is so much to this, masking and the please others driver also becomes a very big part of how we measure success, back to being indispensable. If I'm providing enough value and service to other people around me, then that's one of my measures of success. But actually what it is it's a measure of the ability to survive and perhaps even thrive. But it's certainly not to do with material things. It's to do with being of value.
Wow. And that, as a woman as well, fits into the patriarchal idea that women, ideally, in that view, you know, offer for nothing, for free, you know, attentive, warm, kind, compassionate, you know, that's how they're meant to be. Presence. And so inadvertently, you know, then by going along with that, I'm performing that duty par excellence. You know, if I buy into, yes, I'll do this profession and that's what I'll do. But also for me, that was the only thing that I saw of any value in me when I was young. People said you're a good listener. And it took me out of the picture, of course, you know, as we've talked about before. So it was ticking all of those boxes and meeting all of those needs, but silently playing along.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm so passionate about the circle stuff, you know, because I believe that, you know, a key way of being that we need in our times, whether that's polycrisis, end times, apocalyptic, whatever way you want to see it, in these times that we're living in, we need to find each other in connection, in small groupings, in multi-generational groupings. And actually, that is more accessible than therapy support is. And everybody's so disconnected and, you know, all of that. So part of my passion for bringing in circles is as a response to the political climate, but also recognising that those are, you know, those are the feminine attributes. Circles is not gender specific, although there is a women's circle movement. But what that really means is the feminine aspects that have got eradicated and burnt through the witch trials and you know, things like that. So all of that has been eradicated. All of that needs to be refound. And as a therapist, I am well placed to be part of that movement and to be go in a different way rather than within the patriarchal capitalist society. However, in order to do that, I have to do a lot of unpaid work and energy. I had to pay for training. I have to vision things and do setup to set all of this up. And I have to do that with limited energy when also running a therapy practice and facing a benefit cut.
And being autistic.
And being autistic, you know, but I want to do that. And in many ways, that's my giving back. I can't give back to that as well as cut price everything else.
I think what you were saying just then in your explanation of your own drive toward circles and the qualities that you were talking about that you want to support and encourage is really, really important, and needs to be more widely understood. It explains something to me in terms that I hadn't put together as clearly as you just did. I just want to mark that. And also, I am going to just bring it back to my own experience again. You made sense there of, I don't know how else, we haven't yet got the language to say feminine qualities in a way that isn't gender binary, you know, and
I don't know how
we're both uncomfortable
that.
with that, and we're just recognising that. But nevertheless, my struggle with gender, and having that interpreted or misinterpreted, or the expectations of what it is to be a man. Again, you've really crystallised that very strongly in that it's, again, part of an autistic experience. It's part of the value system that drives me to be a therapist, which also project, all my life, something about my gender.
Yeah.
Which is interpreted in a way that I don't think is helpful for anybody. And so I keep coming back to the discomforts of the expectations on me as a man, or somebody who presents as a man or has male markers, however you want to define that, while still not being in the slightest bit interested in my own gender. Yeah. Other than the fact that it's been so restrictive, not sexually, not biologically, for me, but just in terms of this disproportionate weight of expectations or confounding expectations by having those qualities which we are at the moment referring to as feminine or softer or, you know, and that also comes into markers and measures of success.
Yes.
I'm not doing what Western society expects of a man in terms of amassing wealth and material and being, you know, I don't have a family that I have to support in that way, but, you know, if I did, I'd have to battle with that.
Yes.
Yeah, there's just too much, I think, to kind of summarise, but there are a lot of themes here coming together when we're trying to define success that bring in so much about being autistic, that bring in so much about gender identity, and about masking and being indispensable and providing service so that we are, as far as we can, equally valued in society, which is a struggle that doesn't go away. And also to come back to my dream and to the program I was watching and how that affected me was about the almost, you know, I know that I cannot, through at least my own efforts on my own, or at this point in time, get to the level of understanding that I clearly, parts of me at least, need from other people, about my, you can call it hidden disability, or my, you know, neurotype being different and invisible. It's irresolvable. And so I suppose all of our values are also partly driven by trying to resolve it, by trying to bring balance and understanding and fairness.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's not equal. The misunderstanding is not equal. This is why I have a problem with the double empathy problem. I was talking to somebody I work with about this a few days ago, where we were talking about, you know, not being properly understood, but I said it's not fair. And the comparison is American culture. We do, wherever you are in the United Kingdom, you do not have a problem understanding American culture because we're so steeped in it. So we can understand any TV show or movie or whatever, well, no matter what the accent and how heavy it is, because we're steeped in it all our lives. Whereas if you're in America and you're watching some show or a movie from the United Kingdom, unless you've got a Cockney accent or a posh English accent, there'll be subtitles, because it's not anything to do with intelligence, it's just to do with exposure. So we are exposed to neurotypical people all the time. We do, so we can have empathy. The other way round, not so much, because there isn't the exposure and it is invisible. And again, that brings back up the whole issue of social justice and fairness. Again, too much to take apart there, but I'm just really noticing how all of these things are being kind of individual twines being twisted into a very thick rope here conversationally, in a way that really got prodded to me watching this show last night, and then having these own kind of very personal thoughts about accepting that I'm never going to be fully accepted or understood by important people. And it's not this, that's not an anger, that's nobody's fault, it's just lack of exposure.
Yeah, I had a dream last night, and it was about like it was a big group, and I was probably, everybody in it was probably in their 20s. It might have been a course, I don't know what it was. And there was these people who were kind of aligned, and I didn't know they were aligned, and I was very innocently feeling like I was able to relate to these people and relate to other people, and it was all okay. And they were like actively hating me, like, so it was all like this whole big thing that I just was not getting. And then it all came out in the end, and I was utterly shocked because I did not see it coming. And there was like one or two people who were like looking after me, and there was actually this older, I think it was some kind of a course or somebody, an older person who was attending to it and could seeing it like bullying or something like that. But I'd never had anything like that, and I couldn't think of like a time when it had happened or anything like that. But it was just that sense of being like utterly clueless as to how, I guess I'm going to say how annoying, but you know, that of just being, I didn't know how I could be annoying you so much that you all have had to get together and, I mean, basically then caricature me in unfair ways, you know, so, but to create this, and I didn't realise, and big deal, I guess, you know, I don't know these people, and the whole point of the dream was that I didn't know, and then I became aware of something that quite possibly had been going on for a long time and could have just continued, and I would have just been oblivious. But I guess it ties into like, I was just autistic. I was just myself. I wasn't these horrible things it was like a caricature that was being promulgated, you know, that these people were getting together and one. It's like bullying, you know, it's like nobody is actually that despicable, horrible person that you are, you know, bullying over there and thinking that they're so worthless. I don't know if it was almost bringing home to me, like, you're actually more annoying now, Siana, than you've ever been. I mean, yay, good, I'm autistic and out, but that actually that's what that can lead to, and it's quite vulnerable, you know. And I mean, it's not going to happen that these people are going to gang up and throw stones at me, but psychologically, then, well, not psychologically, because I'm not obsessing about it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I really know what you're saying. It's very moving. And you and I, it's interesting, you both had dreams illustrating our different angles on this at the same time. But, you know, my experience that I've been talking about was about how my experience is invisible to others, and your angle on that is completely the opposite direction, but it's the same thing. It's how other people's experience of you is invisible to you, potentially.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Well, and I think that it's the same mechanism at work in both. And I've just remembered something that I came immediately out of the dream with that I didn't write down because I wasn't awake enough. But there was something, I had this big, I don't think this will stay in, I had this big realization about how a long-standing view of myself or explanation of this part is that I find it uncomfortable to make contact with people, important people, family, friends, because of a self-worth thing. Because I would think, well, why would they want to hear from me just for no particular reason? There always had to be a very good reason to make contact, and that very rarely happens. And so I end up in this position where people are always the ones reaching out to me, and then I feel bad about that. But what I realised, like this morning, very in the early hours, was that I really want to do that. Actually, I really desperately want to reach out, but moreover to be able to explain certain parts of what my experience is or how I'm feeling in ways that I saw people do in the show last night, answering those questions. And I can't do it. I actually can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm really, really stuck. I don't know how. It's not that I know how, but find it uncomfortable. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
And, that made me think about being with my family over Christmas and how, all the conversations I want to have, again, because of the move, things have changed hugely in that I don't see them very often at all. I might see my parents before every couple of weeks. And that's now not the case at all. And so does that, I don't know what it means, but I'm just well, there you go. My speech just got stuck because to embody the stuckness that's brought on. So it's difficult to be an autistic person.
Yes. And you brought it back to Christmas a bit, because obviously we are in the flow and we need to wrap it up. And we had, maybe this is just how it is. This is just what we've always been like when we think, oh yeah, probably whatever we record today is going to be Christmassy and it's going to go out as quote unquote our Christmas episode. And this will, because this is where we're at. And it's more like a seasonal thing. This is beginning of December 2025. This is where we're at then. And it just kind of reinforces that we can't really tell ourselves what we're going to talk about, because it's just not yet. No, it's just not going to happen. No, but that comes back to, I think, what I lost a wee bit earlier on, which was what my friend was saying to me.
Oh yes.
And I don't want it to be elusive now when I try and get back to it, but I think what she was trying to do was to help me to trust myself that, when I get too into planning and there's a limited time on this and I need to get this done by this time frame or it'll not happen, and it really needs to happen, that actually getting back into the things will fall away that need to fall away when they need to fall away. And actually that makes me think about my tree as well. And something about it's just not possible, as if you're being true to yourself and continuing to be true to yourself, there are some things that are just never going to be possible. And that means, as an autistic person, that just means as a person, as a personality, that some of this just is going to be as it is, and no amount of kind of trying to be strategic or trying to plan some of that is just going to sabotage and get in the way of what needs to happen. I think that so anyway, have you got, go, and then we'll do summing up about.
Well, I was just going to say there's peace in that, because that's acceptance. And realizing what's possible and what's not possible, or what's inevitable, then we can exercise some acceptance, and there is some peace in that. Simultaneously, there's absolute heartbreak.
Yeah.
That some of those things. Some of those things are impossible. I am heartbroken that I'm never going to fully be able to communicate my experience to people who are important to me, and they're not going to be able to understand or fully accept it. not because of ignorance, not because of hatred, not because of any of the bad things, just because it's too different.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So then my equivalent of that then is this sense of this looming benefit cut, which might actually make the difference between me being able to get the circles off the ground the way I want to get them off the ground, and that I may not get to see that happen. And that's part of why I've been, leaning into the hyperactivity.
Yes.
Because of a sense of the time critical nature of it. Otherwise, I won't get to do the thing that I passionately believe in. And that may be what that is. And actually, that's not my fault, and I'll have to realise that. And also, of course, there's more important things in the world, so I've got to have that perspective as well. But I just have to, there's limitations and so something about that. Have you got any last kind of comments or reflections before we finish up today?
Not to introduce, this isn't an element of toxic positivity or trying to polish a turd or end on a happy note, but there is a genuine appreciation of my privilege in being able to connect with neurokin. That is the best thing that I have to go alongside what we've been talking about today, and that I get to do that to an exceptional degree. And part of that is the people who listen to us and who make connections, the people I work with, which means that literally 95% of my interactions are with autists and you. You won't want to keep that in because it will make you cringe, but
I know I might be able to allow
I hope so.
It's a nice thing, and it's not. Yeah.
Well, that has become hugely important and appreciated, and season of goodwill to all humans. I want
not
to
just all
mark
humans,
that.
All beings.
All beings. Yes, you're right. Of course.
Season of goodwill towards every living.
Yes, and it shouldn't be a season. Of course, it should be a way of just living. Okay, you can have some goodwill for the next few weeks and then forget it. There's a nice out for us. There you go. Trivialise the whole fucking thing. I am genuinely appreciative of that. And yes, no, I would definitely say beings, because, the animal world gives me a great deal as well.
Yes. And plants and trees.
Biodiversity.
Yes. Thank you so much for being with us, lovely listeners. We will talk to you again soon.
Hope you have a lovely, restful holiday period, whatever that means to you. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Autistic License podcast. You can connect with us via Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at autisticlicense.com or by email at autisticlicense@gmail.com. We spell license Licence. We also have a Facebook community. You can search for Autistic License Siana and Leo. Siana spelled Siana, or you can click on the link in the show notes.